The year is 1972, and the place is California. And the people, the Dinsio Crew, who the FBI called the most successful thieves ever. In the case, it's a bank robbery. But the victim is just not anyone, but the one. The President of the United States, Richard Nixon. And the amount is $30 million in today's money. So let's go above the brain and figure out how they did it. And if you like the content going further, drop a like or subscribe. Meet Amil Dinsio, a highly skilled thief from Youngstown, Ohio, and his crew, which consisted of his brother, James, who was an explosive expert and designer for burglary tools, and also his wife, brother, Charles, his nephews, Harry and Ronald Barber, and two talented alarm experts, Phil and Charles. So together, they were called the Dinsio Crew. Basically, one big, happy, thievy family. And Amil was a mastermind and leader of the robberies. So, it wasn't a surprise that most of the cases were done very clean, to the point where there was virtually no evidence left behind at the crime scenes, even after FBI agents searched meticulously for any signs of slip-ups. During the 1960s and 70s, the gang of thieves robbed an estimated 30 banks on the East Coast for an insane $20 million. An FBI special agent, Paul Chamberlain, is quoted as saying, "The Dinsio Crew is the best thieves that ever lived." 1972, the crew of highly skilled bank robbers. Okay. Let me give you a little backstory before I continue. Richard Nixon, which he is known for one of the most controversial and corrupt presidents of all time. But hey, no one knew it yet. If you ask any American at that time, they'll tell you that he's a fine citizen. On April 7, 1972, new financial laws was implemented and required the disclosure of names of individual donors. But with Nixon being Nixon, it's not against the law if you don't get caught. And prior to the Federal Election Campaign Act of 1971, pretty much anything went when it came to politicians grabbing cash from lobbyists. In 1970 alone, he collected nearly $4 million from congressional candidates, but had no treasurer or chairman and failed to file reports as required by the law. But at the time, he came off as a very righteous president. But in actuality, during Nixon's presidential re-election campaign, he was receiving dirty money that was secretly donated by corporations and individuals of high stature. The list that named the donors was known as Rosemary's Baby, locked and sealed in a drawer by Rosemary Woods, Nixon's secretary. So, with all this cash flow, Nixon did the smart thing by investing in his presidency, by funneling over $200,000 to the Watergate burglars that were arrested in the office of the Democratic National Committee, and by paying $45,000 to Donald Segretti, a man who helped carry out these dirty tricks and other curricular activities, if you know what I mean. Now, this is a man who knows how to invest in his future. But there is one important question. Where was all these millions being held? And that brings us back to 1972. The Dinsio Crew broke into a small Orange County bank where Nixon millions were cozied up in small deposit boxes. Harry a team member involved in the plot, and also his nephew, still to this day isn't sure where the scoop of the information came from, but they got it anyway. And on this night, the crew poured expendable foam, or goop, into the bank's interior alarm. It's a fast-hardening goop, normally employed to solidify surfboards, and it did a good job at disabling the alarm. So, with that out of the way, the crew went to stage 2. And stage 2 was using 16 sticks of cold, hard dynamite to blow the concrete roof off the bank ceiling. But surprisingly, the blast brought little attention to the heist. Harry revealed that they had a reliable method of muting the explosion. They put sand on top of the roof to mute the sound. So, with the success of stage 2, they implemented stage 3, where they used a ladder to enter the vault and using a blowtorch to melt the entrance. And the day they decided to plan this robbery was a Friday. So that meant they had the whole weekend to pound open nearly 500 safe deposit boxes. So they did for 3 days straight. On Monday, the bank was left in ruins, and they ran off with $12 million. And a lot of it was Nixon's dirty campaign money. And he was livid. The crew thought that since the campaign money was dirty, then Nixon would just let them slide and wouldn't pursue the case aggressively. Boy, was they wrong. Usually, when someone robs a bank, they send about 4 to 5 agents. This man sent 125. So you know, he was pretty upset with the situation, which was pretty terrible for the crew. And apparently in the movie Finding Steve McQueen, the FBI found that this crime was very similar to one that was committed in Ohio a few months back. So the FBI linked both burglaries. And with using their investigation of transportation records, they revealed that 5 members of the crew had traveled to California on a single flight using their own names, and that the burglars were eventually apprehended when the feds discovered their fingerprints on dirty tableware left in their rented home's dishwasher. But Harry denied those statements by saying there was a guy by the name of Dawson, and Charles told the men the whole story, and Dawson told the FBI. Then the FBI got a hold of Charles and got him to testify in court against them. And everyone was arrested and convicted of all the burglaries, along with recovering most of the cash as well. Before creating this video, I never thought that anyone can steal from the President of the United States. But after thinking for a little bit, if Kennedy can get shot, Nixon can get robbed. Thank you for watching.
And I want to say this to the television audience. I made my mistakes, but in all of my years of public life, I have never profited from public service. I've earned every cent. And in all of my years of public life, I have never obstructed justice. And I think, too, that I could say that in my years of public life, that I welcome this kind of examination, because people have got to know whether or not their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook. I've earned everything I've got.
President?
Yes, sir.